Hello and welcome to Fix My File, and today we're going to have a look at PowerPoint. Now what we've got in front of us is a rather poor PowerPoint presentation which has got 4 slides, and it's dreadful for a reason, so that I can actually guide you through how we can make some changes. Now these examples have been exaggerated, but I promise you I come across this every week as a consultant. The issues that I've pulled out, I have done so because they are really common problems that I see. And with just a little bit of tweaking, it can make a complete difference to the way your PowerPoint slide deck looks. So let's jump straight in. As you can see down the side here, we've got the 4 slides that we're going to work through, and I'm just going to minimize them a little bit. And then we've got the tasks that I've got as notes here. So I'm going to actually expand this a bit. There we go. So first of all, on this slide, we've got that the picture is poorly aligned. So we've got a picture here, which is fine, but actually I'm not sure what relevance it has to this, but either way, the picture's not very good. We've got we can see an open door. So let's see what we can do. Now we could change the image, but the first thing what I always do with images is double click the image to open it up and see what the picture originally looked like. Now to look at that, you go to crop. And what that does is rather than cropping it, it shows you where it has been cropped. So now I can very easily just slide along and pick part of the image that I think is better, like actually this, where it looks like an office environment. That would probably be better than what we had before. So I'm now going to say crop there, and that's that. And if I wanted to cut this edge off, I could cut that edge off. I could cut this edge off too if I wanted to, just so that it doesn't look like there's a doorway there. Okay, and then I'll move this across, and I could, if I wanted it to be a bit larger, we could do something like that. Okay, so that automatically looks better than the image that we had before. So what we've got here is we've got a title. And if I look at the colour of the title, I can see it's this blue up here, a dark blue text one. Now this heading is a completely different colour, and that just gives that sense of misalignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour it exactly the same so that it looks a little bit more uniform. Now this is an aerial body 18, and that's fine. This is aerial body 14. So they're both aerial, essentially. That's what I was checking. I don't mind that they're different sizes. This is the title for the slide. This is just for the chart. So I'm absolutely happy with that. However, when we come down here again, this is a different shade of blue. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make the axis the same colour. It just makes it look more consistent. Now, when we look at the legend is not blue. I think it's actually black. So I'm going to select our blue again. And it seems to be overly big, really. If we compare it to this, I don't think it probably needs to be quite that big. So I'm going to minimize that a little bit. I feel that now looks more balanced. What I'm going to do is pull this to the side. So it doesn't seem balanced at the moment. It's not in the middle of the slide deck. It was kind of off to one side. Okay, so I think that's much better. Now, one of the things I think we could possibly improve is the fact that these legend colours are very similar. So when I look at them, it's hard to see which is aspirational, which is baseline. The very dark one is fine, and probably one of the other light ones would be fine, but the rest are just too similar. So what I'm going to do is change them. I'm going to keep the light one and I'm going to keep the very dark one, but what I'm going to do here is click on this, and then this gives us the option to make changes to this series. Now we can do this by using the paintbrush, or we can just right click and we can change our fill. So I'm going to change that now, and I'm going to over exaggerate this for a purpose. And I'm going to make this super bright. So now we've got a light one, a super bright one, and a very dark one. And if I wanted to keep all the colours the same, we could do that. I could change this for a different colour, obviously. This one is actually the baseline. So I can see that if I hover over it, we've got, oh, actually that's aspirational. So what you can do if you've got the baseline, which is here, the aspirational, you can make them different colors to show that actually they're a completely different set of information. So what I'm going to do on this one is for the fill, let me click it. I'm going to do fill green because that's where we're trying to get to, the outline green. And for this one, I could do red, I could do a light green. It really doesn't matter. There's lots of different options. I'm just going to pick red for this occasion so that we can really easily see now. The baseline is red, the aspirational is green. And then the two colours that we've got are very easy to read. When you have charts, you want someone to be able to stare at it and within a second understand what the information is telling you. If they have to literally come to the slide and start clicking on things, you've done a really poor job of explaining that. The last thing on this slide that I'd like to talk about is this chart doesn't actually have any analysis. It doesn't say anything. There isn't a paragraph that summarizes your findings. So I would urge someone to put that on here. Now, potentially it's been left off on purpose because the person is going to talk about it when they do their presentation. But if you were going to email this presentation to someone rather than actually narrating it for them and having a formal presentation, I would certainly add text, because if not, it's down to interpretation, and you want to make sure the person who gets emailed your document or reads it on your behalf understands the analysis that you're trying to give. Okay, if we now move on to slide 2, we can see we've got a few changes here. Now, the first thing is the heading is different to the heading on this box. And I do want my headings to all be the same. So I have to pick which one I like and then stick to it. So I'm going to say this one. I'm going to say aerial body 18, and it was that blue at the top. So I am now going to come onto this and I am going to go aerial 18 and that blue. And what I'm going to do is shrink these so that the box is out the way. It's not overlapping anything else. It makes life much easier. Now, I think potentially these colours would look better if they were that shade of blue. Now, sometimes you do want differences and you do want it to look different. Sometimes it's better if they all look the same. We won't know till we try. So that is something that we can look at. And I also think this box has got different effects to this one. So that's something else that we need to consider as well. So I'm going to ungroup all of these shapes. Let me just undo that and talk you through it. These had been grouped. So they started off as 4 shapes and they'd been grouped together to be one big shape, which is fabulous, except when you want to change one element of it, then you can't. So I came over to here to shape format and I clicked on ungroup. And now we've got them back to 4 individual shapes again. So this one and this one I would like to change. So I've pressed Control and selected them both. And I want the fill to be that dark blue. I want the outline to be that dark blue as well. And now I think this one has got a bit of blur or something like that. So if I click on this one and I come to shape effect, it's glow. Yes, we've got some glow there. So I'm going to put no glow because I do want these to be exactly the same. So now that's smartened that up. The colour matches this colour. This is not level with that. And so that can make life a little bit different. Now, what you can do here is you could have guides or grid lines on to help you make sure you've got it lined up. So you can take these off afterwards, but now we can see if the line underneath is matching. I get this line appearing here and here when I move it. So that helps guide me as to where it should be. Now, in terms of how far over it should be, I can see that we've got how much of a gap have we got between the two of these. So if I want to be really formal, I can move that to there and I can see I'm about halfway through. Okay, so then you could line those up. You can use your ruler at the top to do this for you as well. But I'm just going to do a very quick job at the moment. There we go. So I'm now going to take off grid lines and guides back off. I'm going to leave my ruler on because I do use that all of the time. So I think that definitely looks more professional now than the one we had before. Let's move on. Okay, this slide. So there's a few different things on this slide. First of all, it hasn't even got a title. So we want to change that. So let's copy this and we do Control Copy, and then I come to this slide and I do Control V. So not only have I got the same text, color, etc., it's also in exactly the right place, which is helpful. So here, I'm not sure what this slide says, but so I'm just going to call it slide 3. Okay, and we would have to work out what the slide was telling us. Now, this picture is actually watermarked, and it can be quite hard to see that, but if I zoom in, you can see we've got watermarked images here. Now, that looks really, really unprofessional, so I definitely would like that. So I'm going to change this image. Now, I can only guess what they're trying to suggest. This is about teamwork, the pieces of a jigsaw piece, everything fitting together. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go to picture format. And what I would like us to do is to change the picture. Now, it might be that I've found a picture that I want on the internet or something like that. But what I'm going to do on this occasion, I'm going to go to stock images. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring up a library of images that are saved through Microsoft. And I'm going to search for jigsaw. I could search for teamwork, something like that. But here we go. We've got some. And all I need to do now is just select one of these that I think is helpful. So we've got this one, which looks quite good. This one. I'm going to select this one because I think it's most similar to the one that was there before. There we go. And now I can align this. I can remove the background potentially. So we don't need the design ideas. Let's see what happens if we remove the background. Now, some images, you can remove the background and they look fabulous. Sometimes they go completely wrong. So what this is showing me is it's not going to have these people's cuffs in for their shirt. But actually, on this picture, that doesn't really matter. So there we go. And I think that just looks better than the cream background on a white border. So I'm going to keep it like that. If I wanted to, I could erase this bit as well using the remove background button. I can just select that I want to remove that specific point, and that might make it look a little bit more balanced. Okay, if we then look at this slide, we've got different bullet points here and they just look messy. We've got some with ticks, we've got a box. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select that they all have the same. Now we can pick any of the ones that we like from here, or we could go and we could choose some from here. We can customize it. We could bring in a picture, lots of different options. I'm just going to select this one and I'm going to press OK. I can change the color if I want. So I could do it dark blue so that it's the same theme as the rest of our colors. So that's much better. So this is still not got very much. It's got far too much white space. It doesn't really say a lot, but in all honesty, we don't know how long these bullet points are going to be. These might be 2 or 3 sentences long, in which case this is more likely to end up here. And this text box might become as big as that. So then this seems much more aligned and it's a better use of space. Now, I think we've got different fonts in here. This does not look the same as the rest, and it's called Abadi, so it definitely is not. Now, we want everything to be Arial, don't we? So I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to say, let's move to Arial body. I haven't selected the size because obviously this size is bigger, and we accept that. So I would want to have a different size font to my body text than I would to my headings, which is fine. I haven't got any headings in here as such, and I haven't here. So I haven't got anything to compare it to. But if we move to the next slide, I would want this text and this text to be exactly the same as this text. So that is something that we can look at. If we move on to this final slide now, my first question is, why is this slide purple, lilac, pink? Why is it different to all of the others? It really doesn't seem like there's much sense and much logic into that. So I would question that from a starting point and potentially put it onto a white background. The other problem I have with this box is that these are all different shapes and sizes, and actually this is larger than it needs to be. It's not very well laid out, is it? It's a little bit of a mess. And so same here, we've got different fonts being used, different sizes, different colours. So let's get them aligned again, just like we did before. So Yorkshire and Humber, that's obviously the region of this file. So I'm going to turn that dark blue, and I'm going to do the same down here. Now, if we go to our first chart, this was size 10, aerial body 10. Let's come over to here and let's make sure this is aerial body 10. That's just made things look a little bit more professional. Now for me, this seems a little bit, title seems a little bit off in the clouds. We want to make sure it's centralized, and actually we want this to be using a good use of space as well. So that looks better already. If we go to here, this is Arial 16, and I think on the other one we were using Arial 14, so I'm going to change that. And let's make sure it's the right colour blue. My question here is, what is this? Region evaluation. And it's given me some information about this region. When I read it, I think it's a quote. It's feedback from somebody. So I think this needs better explanation. So region evaluation. So maybe this is called feedback. Except I've spelt that wrong. So let's quickly change that. Feedback, region evaluation. Okay. And there we go. Now it makes more sense. I can understand it. And if it is something that somebody has said, then I think we should put it in quotes, and let's give it a full stop. There we go. So that's a little bit better straight away. We've then got this area, and this has got different fonts, but I can't access it because this is in the way. It's too big. It's going all the way over here. Now, if I try and reduce it, it shrinks this chart because this chart has been brought in as a picture, not a chart. So what I'm going to do first of all is just crop this blank space out the way. We don't need it. There we go. Now it's not in my way and I can access this. So what we need to do here is make sure that this is all size 14. It's all Arial and it's all the right colour. Okay, that's a great step in the right direction. For some reason, when they've imported this, they've got a box on the edge. It's got a border, and we don't want it to have a border. Nothing else has got a border, and it does look a little bit strange with that background. Now, if you had a white background, you probably wouldn't see the border, but we can see it, so let's change it now. So once you've clicked on your chart, you've got a couple of design options that have come up. You've got design and format, and we want to use the format. We're going to say shape outline, no outline. And it's gone. You could, of course, colour it to the lilac, but if you just say that you don't want one, then it just gives you a blank. So that makes life much easier. Okay, so I'm going to move this down slightly. And actually, this is a rounded shape, so I think this would probably look better centralised. And then we need to consider, why is this chart on a white background? This isn't. So is it because maybe the whole sheet should be white? Then it wouldn't stand out. This has been imported as a picture, so there's very little I can do with it now. However, if I was going to be continuing to work in this document on an ongoing basis, I would question that, and I would say, I want to take this sheet back to white. I want to put it on a white sheet, and I do think it will look much better, and it would feel much more like how it actually should do, like the rest of the presentation, which is on a white background. So there's a few different ways that we can do that. We can look to change the background. We can change the slide. So if we click on this slide, let's see if we've got some master handouts. Let's have a look. So here we go. We've got lots of different slide masters here. And you can see these are the ones that I've been using throughout the slide deck. And the one we were just on was this one. But actually at the bottom here, we've got some plain ones, and I think they would be much better. So maybe what we need to do is just introduce that as a plain slide. So you could select different slides here. You could insert a new blank slide. I'm just going to select this one because it's a little bit quicker. And then what I'm going to do is take away the parts I don't need anymore. So I don't need that box as a placeholder. I don't want these to be purple because they're not purple anywhere else. So this shape, I'm going to say the shape fill, no fill. Here, shape fill, no fill. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is just move these around and make it look a little bit, I mean, for me, this slide is still a little empty. I would want to make adjustments to this, but for the sake of the fact that it's not our file, I shall keep them as they are. I'm going to try and line these up so that the middle of this is the middle of that. The middle of this is the middle of that. That's absolutely fine. This is centralized. Let's see what it looks like if that's centralized as well. Then would we want this centralized? These are the sorts of questions you have to ask yourself frequently. And then if we go back to here, these are centralized, so that looks fine. This is not centralized, but then we don't know what the bullet points are going to be, and obviously we don't have any text on this first one. So the last thing I want us to have a think about is that the fact that we've actually got 3D shapes on here, and then we've got 2D charts and a 2D chart. And normally I would say use 3D because it looks more professional. I think certainly this just gives it a little bit more interest than a flat 2D rectangular shape. But of course we're restricted here because this is a 2D shape. It's been imported as an image, not as a chart. So we can't go back. I haven't got the raw data to change it. So on this occasion, I'm going to keep these the same. However, what I would normally do is trying to align the colours. So here we're using the blues. I would want to use the same for here. We've got here. This is radial, but you could have light blue, medium blue, dark blue if you wanted. It all just really helps keep a theme throughout your documents. I hope you found that helpful. We do have similar Fix My Files to this one in the series. We've got one for Word and we've got two for Excel, one that looks at formulas and one that looks at formatting. Thank you very much for joining me.